A lot of you who watched this probably wondered, what if Kong decided not to save Godzilla? In this video, we will go over a total of 5 instances where the G-Man was saved by the supernatural phenomenon known as plot armor, and quickly explore what the consequences would have been had Godzilla perished at the hands of these titans. If this is your first time here, or if you keep coming back because you love these videos, then please take a split second to subscribe and hit that like button so we can fill your feed with epic kaiju carnage. Coming up, the story of Godzilla without plot armor. Number 1. Godzilla vs. Mutos. To begin our plot armorless set of stories, we will travel back in time to 2014. During this point in the MonsterVerse timeline, the world witnessed monsters of titanic proportions battle it out in Honolulu, Hawaii, and in San Francisco, California. It is here, however, where the G-Man pulled up to not just 1, but 2 Mutos who came together to bring about the next generation of Muto species. So here's where the infamous plot armor comes into play. Godzilla engages in combat with the female Muto, overwhelming her with his superior weight, pushing her back until she finally succumbs and was at the mercy of Godzilla. But as the G-Man winds up a decisive strike, the male comes in and allows them both to seize the opportunity and team up against an ambushed Godzilla. In this clip, Godzilla seemed overwhelmed by the Muto pair, getting continuously stabbed while he's pinned against the ground. But meanwhile, the extraction team that Halo jumped a few moments earlier recovered the warhead that was feeding the Muto nest. But Lieutenant Brody here saw the opportunity to light up the Muto nest, killing all their offspring. It just so happened that this took place just when the Mutos were overwhelming Godzilla, distracting the pair from working as one to finish off the G-Man. This in turn allowed him to fight these Mutos individually for some time, which resulted in a win for Godzilla. Later on, we see that Godzilla saved Ford Brody's life before getting killed by the female Muto. Of course, unintentionally, but the point remains. Had Ford not set fire to the Muto's nest, the result would have potentially been a dead or at least a critically injured Godzilla. These Mutos are equipped with sharp weapons that, if used correctly, could pierce deep into Godzilla's flesh. A prolonged duration of repetitive stabs would have potentially led to Godzilla bleeding to death. And the worst part, these two successfully breeding and causing a worldwide Muto invasion. Up next, Godzilla will need a different type of help against the most powerful Muto of all time. Number 2. Godzilla vs. Muto Prime. After the events of 2014, Godzilla would combat the most powerful Muto specimen, Muto Prime, or also known as Titanus Jinshin Mushi. This colossal animal emerged from the depths to feed on radioactive sources such as warships and submarines which housed nuclear warheads. Godzilla, knowing that this type of titan was a blood-sworn enemy of his own kind, engages in a long pursuit after the Muto Prime. After several small skirmishes between the two titans, these monsters faced off for the last time in the Beartooth Mountains in Montana. One thing to note is that while the Muto Prime was evading Godzilla, she was getting stronger day by day thanks to all the radiation sources she was consuming during this pursuit. At last, the time came when Muto was strong enough to hold her ground against Godzilla. During this fierce fight, the Muto Prime unleashes its signature sonic roar, a roar so powerful that it is specifically tuned to shatter Godzilla's dorsal plates. Before the Muto could go in and inflict further injuries to the G-Man, Emma Russell, with the help of others, hooked up an Orca prototype and emitted sounds that distract the Muto for enough time to help Godzilla get up, take a breather, and recover from this massive wound. In a few moments, Godzilla would have picked up the Muto and critically injured it with its atomic pulse. But what if Dr. Emma Russell didn't amplify this sonic frequency to distract the Muto Prime? Well, we kind of already have an idea of how these giant Mutos deal with defeated Godzillas. A long time ago, another Titanus Gojira specimen, dubbed as Dagon, was defeated by another Muto Prime. But instead of killing it, it implanted these 2 spores in its flank, which would later give birth to the 2 Mutos discussed previously. So back to our present-day Muto, she would have done the exact same thing to our present-day Godzilla, implanting brand new Muto eggs which would have fed on Godzilla until he died. Had the Muto Prime succeeded here, she would have fixed the error of this Muto pair at failing to give birth to the next generation of Mutos and terraforming the planet. But thankfully, this was never the case, thanks to the good old plot armor. Up next, Godzilla will need a lot more than just one dose of plot armor against a much bigger Titan. Number 3, Gman vs. Ghidorah. Moving forward in time, we find ourselves in 2019, when Godzilla faced off against Ghidorah. This story is a bit interesting, because we see that Godzilla was not initially handicapped by another Titan, but by humans. Yes, during their second confrontation, humanity launched a prototype weapon known as the Oxygen Destroyer, which weakened Godzilla so much that he had to drag his way back to his lair and recover, potentially for a very long time. Meanwhile, his rival remained unscathed and went on to unleash worldwide calamity unlike the world had ever seen. After humans realized that they had almost killed their best shot against Ghidorah, they decided to fix things with another bomb, this one being a nuke. Some may argue that this instance wasn't so much plot armor, but the next one is. In the Battle of Boston, we bore witness as Ghidorah carried Godzilla and dropped him from many thousands of feet in the air, weakening him for enough time for Ghidorah to inflict a decisive blow. But here's how that was stopped. While the Russells witnessed this fall, they quickly huddled up to repair a damaged Orca in an attempt to amplify a frequency that would distract Ghidorah from finishing off Godzilla. Similar to the previous case with Muto Prime, except Dr. Emma Russell, who once again used this type of device to save the G-Man, perished this time. In this story, 2 humans gave up their lives to save the G-Man, not to mention Mothra. But what if these guys didn't reactivate the Orca? In the official novelization, it explicitly mentions how this orange glow Godzilla was emitting would grow fainter every time Ghidorah bit into the G-Man while it was healing its own wounds, suggesting that at some point Ghidorah would have killed the G-Man right here had this Orca not been activated to distract Ghidorah. So yes, it turns out that humanity came in clutch once again to save Godzilla in this instance. If Godzilla would have perished here, all the Titans in the world would have continued their path of destruction and perhaps instigated the extinction of all humanity. In these past 3 instances, we have seen how humans came in to save Godzilla. But the next thing to save Godzilla would have taken a more natural form. Number 4, Godzilla vs. Tiamat. This is a Titan that was featured in the graphic novel Godzilla Dominion. A very long Titan armed with corrosive acidic discharges and with some very sharp bladed fins which are able to cut deep into Titan hides. In the novel, Godzilla decided to retreat to one of his older lairs, but was now occupied by Titaness Tiamat. In this fight, there are no humans around to aid Godzilla in combat or to help him recuperate if he is downed by the opposing Titan. The book tells us that Tiamat was a superior combatant in the water, and in order to get out of this one alive, Godzilla realized that he needed to fight on land. The problem here is that these two were continuously being siphoned deeper into the ocean. That's deeper into where Tiamat fights best. As the situation drifted further from the G-Man's favor, it turns out that they were both being siphoned into an air pocket in the depths of the sea, allowing Godzilla to once again fight on dry land. Here, Godzilla exercised his terrestrial prowess and swiftly defeated Tiamat to submit. But what if these Titans weren't siphoned into this cave system? Things would have looked a bit grim for Godzilla. Given the nature and behavior of these Titans, there are 2 possible outcomes for this scenario. 1. Godzilla taps out of the fight and concedes defeat against Tiamat, cementing the rival as the new alpha, and potentially starting a whole new world cataclysmic event once again like Ghidorah, given that Titaness Tiamat is likely a malevolent Titan. But would Godzilla really submit? Quite frankly, this behavior would be out of character for the G-Man, which leads us to the other conclusion. Number 2, Godzilla fights to the death. Being bested underwater is no fun way to go. But if Godzilla had no other option than finding his footing underwater, a likely outcome would have been Godzilla perishing underwater. That's of course not accounting for his atomic breath ability, which would have easily gotten him out of this one alive. Up next, we have another scenario where Godzilla is saved, but by another Titan. Number 5, Gman vs. Mechagodzilla. Going back to more recent events, we find Godzilla duking it out against this mechanized Titan engineered to be Godzilla's superior. Or an attempt at that. After being worn out from his fight against Kong and blasting a hole through the Earth, Godzilla now does not have sufficient energy and stamina to face a brand new Titan, who easily overwhelms him in both melee weapons and atomic weaponry as well. Previous to this matchup, Godzilla had defeated Kong and had him so worn out that his body began to give up on him, and his heartbeat began to fade out, canceling this guy from any ongoing fight. Now, back to the Godzillas, Mecha G now holds Godzilla in a position where he can blast his proton scream down Godzilla's mouth and end the G-Man once and for all. But it was this guy who came in, raised Mechagodzilla's mouth, and redirected this proton scream away from Godzilla at just the right moment. We must mention, however, that it was this dude, Nathan Lind, who somehow miraculously activated some self-destruct protocol on the Heave and used that power as a defibrillator of sorts to resurrect Kong, which then, after some quick convincing, saved Godzilla. In retrospect, a lot could have gone wrong here. If Godzilla decided to end Kong here, there would have been no one to stop Mechagodzilla from killing the G-Man. But let's say Kong decided not to help the Titan that just recently dragged his ass all over Hong Kong. He would then be tasked with fighting a much larger mechanized Titan by himself, with nobody to power this axe, leaving Mechagodzilla with an estimated 24 hours of energy to inflict death and destruction to surrounding cities or other populated areas. Can you name any other instances when plot armor came for Godzilla's rescue? Also, don't forget to subscribe, like, and check us out on Beast Hub, a podcast for all things kaiju, dinosaurs, and more. See you in the next video.